Hello and welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast. My name is Giles and joining me tonight are Akhil. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Good man, not too bad. And we've also got Dave. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm excellent. How are you?
Good man. We haven't got Woz tonight, unfortunately. He's
in a cave
somewhere in Vauxhall, sunny climes of Vauxhall. So, let's crack on. First of all, I would like you guys to sort of rate our summer. If I list the what's happened, and then you tell me how you rate it. So, the incomings were Kolasinac and Lacazette. Outgoings were Szczesny, Gabriel, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and also a few others on loan. Abortive outgoings were Giroud, who was going to go and decided he wasn't going to go. Apparently that was mid-air, and then they phoned Perez, who also left, to tell them that he was out of the squad. Callum Chambers was all set to leave, had a couple of bids, didn't leave. El Neni was subject to a bid, didn't leave. We also got Alexis Sanchez on the last day of the transfer window, subject to a bid, or a bid was agreed but didn't leave. We also had a new fitness guru came on board. We've got a new contracts negotiator or something guy.
He's still on a training course, I think.
Is he? Right, okay. From Sky Cycling Club or Sky Cycling Team or something like that. And that's your lot. So, guys, how would you rate our summer? Starting with you, Akhil.
It's a tricky one, because at the start of the summer, when I looked at kind of our summer, and I thought we probably need three players. We knew the left back was in, we knew the centre forward was probably going to come, and that was at the time where we were linked with Thomas Lemar. And I thought if we did get Thomas Lemar in and we kept Ozil and Sanchez, it would actually be a decent summer, be a really good summer, in fact, but we didn't get Thomas Lemar in, and you know what? I think I got that wrong a little bit, actually. I now look at it and think, actually keeping them, but if they're not signing, then actually is that a good summer? I'm not too sure. I mean, a lot of it depends on what happens now. How Ozil and how Sanchez now play for the rest of the season. I mean, that will depend. But I mean, I'll give it a 6, but it could easily be a 4 if Ozil and Sanchez don't have the seasons that they potentially had last year, or it could even be a 7 if they do have a really good season and the two players that come in settle in well.
Over to you, Dave.
Superb assessment. I think I probably agreed with 3 in, but I'd probably the Lemar got everyone excited because of the links and because there were so many rumours that we were close to signing him. In retrospect, I think another wide player with Alexis staying, if he was going to stay, and obviously now he is, was probably not the priority. I would have looked more as an alternative to a central midfield options that we had, and maybe even a centre back, maybe not so much, but they were certainly to me higher priorities than a wide player, particularly if, and it's a big if, we are going to continue with the same formation that we finished last season and we started this season with, because an out-and-out wide player is not really, a regular feature in the sort of 3-4-2-1. So, yeah, it was an odd transfer window. I think I agree with Akhil. It was frustrating, but okay, and then it just got rather silly and messy at the end, didn't it? Which I'm sure we're going to discuss. But I'm pleased to. I did tweet it on the final day. I didn't think it was going to happen. I just wanted Jack to stay at Arsenal, and Jack did. So for me, a lovely end to a frustrating window, and I will give it a sort of 4 or 5 out of 10, I guess, at best.
Well, when I said 3 in, actually, initially, I did mean a defensive player in there, either a centre back or a midfielder. As you said, the Lemar thing just got us a bit excited, and I kind of looked at that and thought, actually, you know what, he's got a year to settle in before Sanchez actually does go, and I thought that could work quite well. But yeah, I mean, the third would have been probably another player, but hey.
All right, Ax, I want to ask you what the AST's thoughts are on our summer. I mean, before the summer, we'd been told, or it come out of certain channels, that it was about 150 million to spend.
Plus sales, a lot of people said. I was hearing 100 million plus whatever we sold. That was the story coming out of the club or various sources early on.
Exactly, and you'd think that the finance department and the heads of management and the board would have thrashed out all the financial numbers and whatnot workings before the season's end to know where we stood if we signed up both our star players to bigger long-term deals and then, obviously sold off the inverted commas Deadwood and brought in whoever else. It turns out, according to some people, that we didn't actually have that wiggle room in our wage budget, and therefore that's why we couldn't really add to more than Lacazette, who we gave a big, probably big signing on fee and a big wage, as well as Kolasinac, who had a massive signing and fee and a big wage. So what are the AST? What's the AST's position as they review the summer's business?
I guess there's two things there. I mean, my personal opinion was. I'm just thinking about that. My personal opinion was we're not in the Champions League, of course. We look like we're not going to re-sign Alexis Sanchez for sure. Mesut Ozil was maybe 50-50, which means that, did we hold some money back in order to kind of cover that, to cover, if we don't make the Champions League again, does that money sort of cover it? If we do make the Champions League, then hopefully it's a little bit different. And then obviously Arsene Wenger's talked about it this week. To replace Alexis Sanchez, you're losing 60-70 million, and then you're spending 60-70 million to replace him. So that
I actually think you're going to spend double for a player of his caliber.
Well,
next
yeah,
year.
I mean, well, exactly. He said it's cost you about 140, 150 million, but it could be more, yeah, because you're losing 60-70 million too. So. I mean, that's kind of, if I had to make a prediction on why we didn't potentially spend the money and why we made a profit, that will be it. From an AST point of view, I mean, we were saying for a while, with the 7 million rise, from broadcasting rights, because of our commercial revenue, it is pretty flat at the moment. So unless you're making an increase there, you can't justify spending more on wages. So, it seemed like we didn't know what our wage bill was going to be because we didn't know what Mesut Ozil and what Alexis Sanchez, even Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain would be earning. And that's why we couldn't predict what our wage bill would be. So,
but they would have had a figure in mind. They would have, if it was 280, that's another 140 each on both their contracts. You probably would have had a ballpark figure of what the salary could be, the highest.
You would have had a ballpark, but I mean, you're raising Chamberlain's probably by 100 grand as well. So, you're suddenly, if you're putting 150 on the two big players and 100 on Chamberlain.
Yeah, that only happened on the last couple of days, though, Akhil, to be fair. I don't think that would have been budgeted for, that Chamberlain craziness.
No, but we obviously offered him a contract, probably for 120 maybe. 130
That's what I heard.
Maybe, yeah. So,
although Ornstein denies there was any offer of a contract between the 80,000 and the last one.
Well, I don't know. So I mean that's at least 50. So you're looking at about 400, 450 kind of extra there. So it's difficult to predict. I mean, there was three options. They all sign up, they all go, or they all stay, and they're completely different figures. So I just think it was a bit of a mess. It was very chaotic, and I think we were just on the back foot.
I guess that's the problem with Giles as well was that, it's easy to say 280 grand, well, that's just that's selling 5 players and losing those off the wage bill. But what seems to be the situation with Arsenal is that the whole world knew that situation. That nothing was kept in-house. Every club, every manager seemed to, and Ornstein said this as well this week, that they could take advantage because they knew we had to sell. And why? Why does everybody know our business? Why do we put ourselves in that situation?
From what I understand, we sent out messages to certain channels or whatever, letting them know of the players that were going to be made available for sale. And I suppose. But I mean, how do you do
that? Was a problem too, wasn't it? I mean, clubs know who's available. I mean, as you rightly say, Ornstein said even West Brom sources knew Mustafi was available, and so the word had got around, and that's why Kieran Gibbs went for 7 million and not 10 million, like at the start of the summer. It was the Neymar deal. Pushed everyone's deal up. It pushed the Kieran Gibbs deal down because everyone knew he was available. I mean, it's just that can only happen at Arsenal. Seriously, right?
Absolutely madness, isn't it? Absolute bloody madness. I mean, okay, so Jonathan Northcroft at the Times, and obviously you've said Ornstein they've been pretty damning this week, in their summations of Arsenal's business. when we look at someone like, Oxlade-Chamberlain and his situation, Dave, like I say, you let us know pretty early on that he had no intention of signing. And it was kind of like, I do wonder why Wenger waited to the absolute last minute to finally relent. I mean, for me, if you get to the end of the season and he's no nearer sign, surely you make a hard, direct decision. Right, we got to sell him. We've got 12 months. He's got to go. Get him out the door. Why Wenger? The cynic in me thinks he did it with Theo Walcott with 6 months to go. He probably thought he could do it with Oxlade-Chamberlain, and he was absolutely shocked, furious, seething, from what I understand. From
so
what
he said.
Yeah.
So he said.
Well,
the thing that I don't. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than David Ornstein. Of course, I'm not. But there were many people who talked about an offer to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain early in the summer in the region of 120,000 plus add-ons. I was told that by many people, closer to the club than me. And yet, in the last 2 days, it's come out that there was only one offer which raised his salary from 60 to 80,000. Well, obviously he's going to reject that. And then the next offer was 180,000. I'm just sorry. I don't buy that. I do not buy that we offered Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain only a £20,000 rise, having played him pretty much the back end of last season, week in, week out when he was fit, and then did nothing from July till the last 2 days of the transfer window, or the last week of the transfer. And then we tried to beg him to stay with an offer of 60 to 80 grand higher. Nothing about that rings true. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I just can't see any semblance of a sequence of events that I would buy, as been described. Maybe I'm just too cynical. I don't know.
What do you reckon, Axe?
I don't know. I mean, I told you in May that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, I got the feeling he was going to go, and I kind of got convinced otherwise. I mentioned a few bits, and I wrote about them recently, so I'm not going to go into it all again. But it seemed like he was obsessed by this central midfield, and Arsene Wenger suddenly got obsessed with trying to convince him to stay. I mean, he did start all. He's actually has he started the last competitive? I mean, even with the Community Shield, but he started the last competitive 10 or 12 games probably.
He had that little period of injury before the cup final, didn't he? Where he missed 2 or 3.
Oh, of course, yeah. He missed the Everton.
When he was playing ahead of Hector.
When fit, he certainly. You think of Middlesbrough when we went to the back three away on Easter Monday. He played on the right then, and I don't think he ever really came out. He played on the left, obviously, eventually. But so it was obviously we were trying to convince him to stay, and we thought we could, but. We didn't. I mean, it was obviously very different.
And to the detriment of others.
Well, yeah.
Where's the logic there? As you've just said, Akhil, he's convinced all his career that he's a central midfield player. Wenger's certainly most of his career at Arsenal said eventually he sees him as a central midfield player. The player himself has recently been quoted as saying he sees himself as a Steven Gerrard style player. All these things have been said by both manager and player, and then the manager's going to convince him to stay by sticking him at left wing back or right wing back.
Emotionally blackmail him into staying.
Well, yeah, but I would like to know the last time when Arsene Wenger actually did talk about central midfield, because for me I haven't heard it for about 2 or 3 years. He did initially, and obviously when he had that great game in 2011 against AC Milan and all that. But really, have you heard it in the last 2 or 3 years?
He played 2 or 3 games after Christmas, didn't he? He played in Southampton FA Cup.
And Chelsea away, and he did a little bit, but we were quite short then. And it was at Bayern Munich at home game when he played central midfield, and actually he looked all right then, and he kept his place. But then it kind of maybe didn't happen for him after. But I'm not convinced Arsenal believe he was going to be a central midfielder, and I don't know. There was just something weird. It was something weird with the whole thing.
And then we go on to Mustafi.
And it gets even weirder.
According to Jonathan Northcross, the club decided the second half of the season, they convinced them that, he wasn't right for the club and they were happy to let him go. I don't know when they decided this, whether it was at the end of the season review or in the summer when they heard that he wasn't happy or his wife wanted to go back onto the continent. I'm not sure when they decided that, but if they did decide that, they had a review the squad and they decided that he wasn't the right fit. I mean, surely then you sell him early. You make a decision, you sell him earlier, or did it really all come to light towards the back end of the window? I don't know. It just sounds like we didn't have. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no structure. There's no vision. There's no pathway. There's no. Do you know what I mean? There's just no. There's no real management.
Well, particularly he was in the window. He was in the window, wasn't he? He played virtually every game, I think, for Germany in the Confederations Cup and played well. Had a great tournament. I didn't watch it much, but certainly from what I read, I read that he had a good tournament. So if they had made that decision and the player had also indicated that he was open to a move or would actually like a move for personal reasons, as you say, he came back from the Confederations Cup 5-6 weeks ago. And why did this all come out in the last 10 days of the window? Again, I completely agree with you, Charles. Just again, it's not logical to believe what we're being told.
Anything to say to that, Axe? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's if Ornstein is to be believed, it looks like last year we kind of decided that potentially, he isn't where we thought he would be. But then, I don't know, maybe in the Confederations Cup we got a bit of optimism and we thought, you know what, let him come back and let's see kind of what his attitude's like. And maybe when he came back, his attitude was the same. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. The other thing is, I don't know. Arsenal are quite a stubborn, proud club, and what I mean by that is, certainly Arsene Wenger, he doesn't give up on players too easily because he just sees it as, I mean, Lucas Perez is probably one, but was that his signing? We don't know. But in terms of, you're kind of saying it failed if Mustafi went. You're saying £35 million worth a player worth that much has actually failed at this football club, and I think that's quite damning. And I don't know if there was a little bit of...
He did really procrastinate about signing him. I mean, the fee, that went on for a long time last summer, didn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know. And the stat DNA stuff as well, it's obviously Arsenal paid, a couple of million for stat DNA. We're very proud of it. I mean, Ivan Gazidis was very proud of it, was telling everyone how it can change football, and we're the first to do that. We signed Gabriel. We got rid of Gabriel. I think Mustafi was it? I mean, obviously we had seen a lot more of Mustafi, but I think Stat DNA probably played a part, and Lucas Perez maybe Stat DNA played a part, and it's all that. It's a little bit embarrassing to say actually Stat DNA, that thing we were really proud of, isn't actually working.
It gives rise to the conspiracy theory that Wenger doesn't really believe in Stat DNA, and a lot of those players that he's either sold or tried to get off the wage bill potentially were Stat DNA signings. I mean, it gives rise to all these, Zeitgeist theories, I suppose. But
he gives a bit of credence to Tony Adams' theory that he doesn't know much about buying defenders or coaching defenders.
Coaching them, yeah, I heard that one as well today. Yeah, I mean, it's not great.
It's also odd that, I mean, on the subject of centre backs, that we're sort of hearing all summer that Callum Chambers, who had a great summer, was selected ahead of Holding for the England, the under-21s, played very well, led by example, I think, from what I saw, had a good end of season at Middlesbrough, was pretty much we were led to believe was available for the right money. And then, in the last few days of the transfer window, certainly the right money bids came in from, if we're led to believe correctly, Leicester and Crystal Palace, and both bids were turned down in and around the 20 million mark. Now, to make a profit on a player that you pay £15 million for and obviously don't believe in and have rarely played. In fact, the first season he played, the second season, I think he played like 380 minutes of Premier League football, and then he went on loan, and you turned down two bids of £20 million. Again, another one that you just cannot explain.
You can't explain
it. My theory there on Callum Chambers is we were open to selling him at the end of last season. We did a podcast on this on the Gooner Ramble with Sammy Morkball from the Daily Mail, who said that Arsenal were open for offers for Callum Chambers. The summer when he played well, as you say. He came back. We were still kind of open for offers, but then a few things changed. Then Gabriel, obviously there was interest in Gabriel, and we suddenly thought, actually, maybe Chambers has got a little more potential than Gabriel. Maybe Gabriel isn't going to make it in England. So we kind of got rid of Gabriel. Then we thought, okay, maybe we're still open to offers. But then Rob Holding hasn't had the best start to the season. So now we're thinking, oh, actually, if we get rid of Chambers, Rob Holding has a dodgy few months. We could be short. So actually, that's when I think it started to turn, and actually Chambers was considered then. And then the Mustafi thing at the end, where you think, well, actually, Mustafi, January, is he still going to be here? We don't know. So it kind of, I think 2 or 3 things might have happened, which actually has brought, so Callum Chambers, think of it as a queue. He was back of the queue. Gabriel goes, he gets 1 up. Rob Holding has a loss of form, he gets 1 more up. And he's just like climbing that ladder without actually doing anything. And that's kind of my theory on it, really.
I guess also Selly Gibbs and Ox. He's 1 more homegrown in the squad.
Yeah, potentially that could have been it. I mean, I can still see Mustafi and Chambers both going over the next season or season and a half, to be honest. But I think just for this season, I think it was a sort of a risk to sell him as well.
But it also brings us back to my pet subject of him not wanting to play Per Mertesacker, of course. But we can talk about that. I always talk. Well, again. But again, it's an illogical one. He's been fit, the others haven't, and he still doesn't want to play.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Charles.
It's really frustrating because you just don't know we're getting no indication of what the real answer might be. FFP, Wenger's come out this summer recently and said that they were duped basically by FFP. It didn't do what it's supposed to say on the tin, and it makes you now think. I mean, what is our course of action? Do we continue down this self-sustaining route, which sounded really good when it first came to light, when we moved, we decided to build and then move and whatnot, and we watched our peers get bigger and better and get eaten up, gobbled up by sugar daddies of all kinds. I mean, now do you still think that we should go down this self-sustaining route? There's Usmanov there. We don't know whether he's going to stick around or not. He made an offer end of last season, was it? I think, which was turned down. We know that Aliko Dangote has said that he's waiting for the right moment to offer the right price for shares. What that price is, we don't know. Apparently, there's people in Saudi that are sniffing around. Do you think that Kroenke is going to keep hold of the club for much longer? Do you think we're going to continue down a self-sustaining route, or do you think we might change tack, Akhil?
Yeah, I mean, when we do the AST survey, we used to always ask that: do you want Arsenal to continue with the self-sustainability model? Which basically means spend within your means, effectively. But it does mean spend. It doesn't mean don't spend and make a profit. It just means spend within your means. And most people were quite, I think, proud of that, actually. That
proud's the right word. Yeah.
Proud of that. But then you have to do it the right way. You have to then spend within your means, but you go to 90%. You don't go to 50% and make a profit. I think that's the difference. I think, understand Kroenke, I think we'll always have a self-sustainable model. I don't think he'll put money in. I look around football, and obviously Farhad Moshiri, who owned some of Red and White, sold Red and White to Usmanov because he couldn't have a stake in 2 Premier League clubs. He went to Everton, and there's deals being done. I think the training ground has been sponsored. The potentially even the training kit has been sponsored. That sort of money is then in the club. It's a revenue stream. It can be spent on wages. It can be spent on players. And Everton, I know they sold Lukaku, so maybe they didn't spend as much as they did before they sold Lukaku, but they're kind of spending, and I just think there is ways around it. But then, so there are things going on that clubs do, and what got me in the whole Ornstein post the other day was actually what he said about N'Golo Kante. So he said that Arsenal really wanted Kante, but they weren't willing to pay the agent a massive fee, and because they thought if there is a future investigation, they don't want to be seen to have done anything wrong. And I think that's Arsenal all over. They want to do things the right way. And in a way, you want to applaud them for that. They've got morals. They want to do things the right way. But then if the whole of football is now doing things another way, then how can you keep up? And that's the bit that gets me. So that's why I just don't think there'll be, because I mean, technically owners aren't aren't really allowed to put money in as such, but there's obviously ways around it. But I just think Arsenal, that Kante thing for me was so much bigger than just a very, very good player, a world-class player. It was more about, I got a bit of an insight into how Arsenal want to do things, and, I think we'll see the same thing while Stan Kroenke's here.
So hasn't Gazidis gone on record this week as saying, we should be looking at the Leicester model?
He's also said that we should. Kroenke is hungrier than ever, and I'm thinking, well, if he's hungrier than ever, how is that going to manifest itself? But yeah, Dave. I mean, people have been talking about the Leicester model, like we've gone from the Bayern Munich model to the Leicester model. I mean, I don't know. I know you guys have said previously about, maybe we should revert to Project Youth, but a more mature, considered way of, keeping good experienced players and sort of meshing them with good young players. You look at people at clubs like,
well, it's Tottenham, unfortunately. I know you're going to say Borussia Dortment, but closer to home. It's horrible to say, but if you look at the youngsters that have come through, the youngsters that have come through Tottenham the last 3 or 4 years are now the spine of the England team, for crying out loud. And it's horrible, for us as Arsenal fans to see that. But maybe it is time to take a chance on a few of the young. I mean, Reece Nelson will be an obvious one. I hope we'll see him against Cologne and Doncaster, and let's see. But as you said in your introduction to this section, you have to have the blend. Have we got the core of experienced players for them to look up to who want to be playing for Arsenal? Because when it's worked in the past for Arsenal, in 87, 89, when, over half the team was sort of under 21 that won at Anfield, it's happened then. It's happened at Manchester United in the 90s, but it was always 4 or 5 youngsters coming into a team with 5 or 6 fantastically experienced professionals who know how to win things. That's tough. That's tough.
I think I'm just going to say, I think that we are having a bit of an identity crisis. So when you talk about Project Youth, fine, we didn't win much, but we actually played really good football, I thought.
Yeah.
The year of the Eduardo injury, the Flamini, Fabregas, Haleb, Rosicky, Adebayor, Eduardo, Van Persie was coming through. We played
Bentner.
we actually played some really good football then. Yeah. And then, but ultimately we didn't win anything. And then,
there was a direction. There was a route map, wasn't it? You could see what we were trying to do.
Yeah, there was. But then we didn't win anything. Whereas post 2012, or 2013, when Mesut Ozil came, I would actually even say earlier than that. I would even say from the supermarket sweep. Even before that, the Mertesacker, the Arteta, and then the Cazorla, Giroud, Podolski, Summer, and then obviously Ozil, Sanchez, Cech came in after that. We have won 3 FA Cups. So we had an identity at Project Youth, but we didn't win anything. With these kind of well-known players, we've actually won cups. But how do we transfer that into the league? Because at the moment we're a cup team, let's face it. So of course, Dave's spot on. There needs to be a blend, but that blend, I'm not quite sure where that blend is at the moment. Really, I'm not sure where it should be.
Tough.
And that's the thing. I mean, Dave, you mentioned Leicester City. Well, Leicester City's model was created by Nigel Pearson back when they were in League One. The whole using analytics and stuff and identifying players that can improve their squad started from way back when they had a 5-year plan. Obviously we don't have that time with Wenger. But if he wants to, it all comes back down to, as you said, Akhil, and what people have been saying, there's an identity crisis. How do we rectify that? Well, you set out a pathway.
You say we haven't got that time, but Nigel Pearson didn't win the league with Leicester. So,
no, but he planted the seed.
Absolutely. But there's no reason why the current management, Wenger and the current coaches and ownership and CEO can't start. Can't start. I mean, I remember when even during Project Youth, that I remember I got to go to the training ground. This is 6, 7, 8 years ago, and the guys that were there were so proud that everyone's taught the same way. It was all about the Arsenal way, and the Arsenal way then was the, as I said, Haleb, Rosicky, Fabregas at that point, and we played some great football, and we should have won that league if Eduardo hadn't broken his leg. But what they were telling us was, even in the reserves, the under-18s, the under-16s, even the under-8s are taught to play the Arsenal way, and we all knew what the Arsenal way was. Whereas now, I bet you our teams play completely different football, and actually no one actually knows what the Arsenal way is. Arsenal play great football, we're told, but have we really seen any
too many
great
changes?
football?
There's been a lot of changes in the academy.
A lot of changes.
Yeah.
A lot of changes.
Running the academy. I said something flippantly the other day about Reece Nelson. Imagine, you're right. You're absolutely spot on. And we've played as a club since 2009, 4-2-3-1, barring,
last season,
maybe 3 or 4 games until the end of last season. So Reece Nelson, from the age of 7 to now, this season, will have only ever played right wing or left wing in a 4-2-3-1. He's now on the brink of making it into the first team, and his position doesn't exist. It's unbelievable. Well, it's not madness. It's just a harsh reality. It's the same way. It's the same way that when Eduardo, who should have won us the league had he not got injured, came back and there wasn't a position for him. Bentner came back from injury. There wasn't a position for him. There was a sole striker, and it was Robin van Persie. If you weren't the sole striker, you were stuck on the wing. Eduardo was never going to be, a wide player. It happened to lots of players. That's a harsh reality of football.
It happened last season. Theo Walcott had 19 goals till April or March even, and he was talking about getting 25, but then didn't play again because the formation changed. He had an awful game at Palace, and see you later, Mr. Walcott for the season. I mean, things do change. It's football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about, identities and whatnot and the future then, I'm hoping that Wenger now looks at the situation and says, right, okay, whether I'm here for one more season or whether I'm here for whatever, or whoever's coming in beyond me, I've got to start setting down, stones, roadmaps, so that a new manager can come in. If we approach a new manager, he can see and it's really not just about Wenger, it's actually about the administration. Ivan Gazidis and the rest of them setting out a roadmap now and saying whether Wenger's here or not, what's our pathway, what's our direction, whether Wenger's here or not, a new player can come in and say, can look at the club and say, okay, Ozil and Sanchez might be leaving, but you're selling me the idea, you're selling me a vision of where the club wants to go. And every club suffers this. Every club suffers losing their top players and having to replenish, renew, come again. And it's all about, in my mind, it's all about your vision, your roadmap, charting a course and direction and following it. And because that's what players are buying into more so these days, especially on the continent where managers are around for 2 seasons at tops.
Yeah, what has been our strength in having this consistency and solidarity and backing of one man is now our weakness. Mm-hmm. In the same way it became a weakness in Man United at the end. I mean, Chelsea don't have a problem with sacking managers every 2 or 3 years and winning trophies on a continual basis. But that's the way they've always been under this ownership. We've never been like that under this ownership. So it is, you're right, it's a massive decision. How do you go about it? And it comes down to, as I think we probably hinted at previously, there are a lot of players, not the ones just a year to go now. There are a lot of players with only 2 years to go. So next summer, when we potentially lose 3 or 4 fantastic players, we then have to fight to keep 3 or 4 more. And knowing that it's the last year, potentially, of the manager's tenure. It doesn't bear thinking about, to be honest.
And this leads me to another point now. I mean, going on to next summer, looking forward to next summer, it could be, if this summer was bad for us, next summer could send a few of us to our grave. When you think like Ramsey's got 12 months, we'll have 12 months to go this time next year, or less than 12 months to go this time next year, and other players. Talking about Ramsey, Dave, do you think he's staying? I've heard talk that he might not. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think he's going to stay this time next year? Do you think he's going to sign a new contract?
Well, I think he's been offered a new contract this summer, and he certainly hasn't signed it, or else we would have heard about it. I don't think Ramsey is as tightly linked to Wenger as perhaps some might think he is. So I don't think he will be a player that say, I'm going to leave because Wenger's leaving. I think possibly some people might have thought that. I'm not sure that's the case. But I think I'd be speculating. But what I do think is whoever is this new guy is, and the team, him and Dick Law, we have to change our policy, and we have to get tougher. So if these players who are out of contract with a year to go next summer, we can't be waiting till June to speak to these players. I think we need to be sitting down with these players before Christmas, up till Christmas, have a very, very good idea. And if they indicate that they are not likely to sign a new contract, then we put them up for sale. Yeah. I don't think there's any other. We have to start doing that. We can't be in the situation we've been in this summer again. It's just, we can't function as a club with, more than half a first team going or likely to go. It's just not we couldn't continue. We'd end up in the bottom half of the table.
Exactly. I mean, Akhil, coming over to you, I mean, we've got this situation with not even, I mean, if we get to the end of I don't want to be a merchant of doom, but if we get to the end of the season, we don't get back into the top 4 as well. It doesn't bear thinking about. But I mean, of the players that are coming into their last year, next year, we've got Ramsey, we've got Welbeck, we've got Nacho, we've got, who else have we got?
Theo,
we've got
Petr Cech.
Right, okay.
Spina, Giroud potentially as well, Santi Cazorla. Well, he's probably out of contract this year, actually. So yeah, there's a few.
And who of those would you really want us to be nailing down from now?
Well, I mean, ultimately, all of them. I say that in a way that, obviously one or two, if we got value for them and we found a buyer, then, we'll be willing to let them go, because you always need to refresh your squad. But when I say all of them, is because you do need a squad of 25. I mean, just going back a step there as well. I mean, when the new guy came in, I mean, you mentioned Dick Law there. I mean, the rumour has been that Dick Law's going to be going, and that kind of rumour has been around about 6 months. But when the new chap came in, whose name I can't remember, but there was something he said about that, players shouldn't get into 2 years of their contracts, and that's something he wants to change, I think, unless I'm just making this up and I dreamt it, but
I hope he said
let's hope he said that, because it sounds like a sensible idea, yeah. So it kind of, you think, so I mean, I guess I got a question for you here, that, people have said, and I've seen this on social media and at games and at AST meetings, where people have said, how have we let Alexis Sanchez get to this 1 year left? It's ridiculous. It's this, it's that. Well, if last summer he indicated he wasn't going to sign, then should we have, in theory, sold him last summer? Obviously that's gone now, but take that example to Aaron Ramsey. If, as what Dave said is true, or what we think is true, that he has probably had talks, but he's kind of just said, he hasn't said no, but he's kind of said, no, what, let me see how it goes, because at the moment Arsenal's not appealing. It's not appealing for players, and as you just said, the top 4, people want to see, are we going to get back in the Champions League before I commit? Because I'm not committing if we're going to be in the Europa League, and if we're going to start dropping to 5th, 6th, 7th every season, I don't want to be here. And do you blame them? So someone like Aaron Ramsey, if I was Aaron Ramsey or I was his advisor, I would be saying, no, don't sign. Let's just see what happens. You're in your peak of your career now. You're playing well for Wales. You're going to play in a World Cup probably next year. Just sit tight. Yeah, let's see what happens, And even if you want to stay at Arsenal, you would still sit tight, because you would think, well, at the same time, I do want to win things. So should we have sold Aaron Ramsey this summer? Or any of those players you've mentioned, if they've indicated that, they're not ready to sign right now? They may in the future, but they're not at the moment.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, that was a separate question.
But I would sell him next summer.
Yeah,
I would sell him next summer.
If we can't get him, if we can't tie him down between now,
you wait till the year to go. You try and convince him this summer.
But also, with all due respect to Aaron Ramsey, he's not Alexis Sanchez. There are certain players that you possibly might make an exception for.
Yeah.
Alexis Sanchez can single-handedly win you games and potentially help win you tournaments. Aaron Ramsey is not at that level, and if Aaron Ramsey wouldn't sign a contract and we could get 40 million, we can buy better for less. You can't do that with Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah, no. What I meant there is, we want this. We want it to be a thing where players don't go within 2 years of their deal. But then, obviously, if that's to happen, that does mean that they're sold with 2 years to go rather than 1 year to go. That was my point. That if we're saying, okay, you know what, from now on, people are not going to get within 2 years of their contract, effectively that means that, well, I'm just picking on Aaron Ramsey, but it just means that if Aaron Ramsey's not going to sign now, suddenly he is going to get within 2 years of the contract. Okay, sorry, we have to sell him now. That's what I'm saying, that's the kind of, is that how ruthless we have to be? Or
no, I think it's more a case of, if he won't sign, we will make the decision that if that continues, we will sell him when it's a year to go, rather than try and convince him then.
Because Wenger, if you listen to what Wenger said about contracts, he's saying that we're going to see more and more of this. Obviously, he's saying with our example being the case in point. But I mean, I would see Wenger and this guy clashing if that was the case.
Yeah.
There's that.
What do you think? What do we think would have happened if, just to use another example of a player that's topical and in a situation. Now, Mesut Ozil is apparently demanding super wages. Whether we agree or disagree that he deserves those wages. But if he won't sign the contract, what if we had turned around and said, as we did with Patrick Vieira, when he's on holiday, we'll just accept an offer from Juve. When he comes back, by the way, we've accepted an offer for you. Can football still be like that? Can we say to Mesut Ozil, actually, we've had an offer from Fenerbahce, we've accepted it? Would that make Mesut Ozil sign a contract at Arsenal? Maybe. Well, should we play more hardball? Should we just accept? If we get an offer, should we accept it? Like Kieran Gibbs, lovely loyal servant, we got an offer at the start of the window for £10 million from West Brom. You know, we went to Kieran Big Gibbs, who's our loyal player, and said, do you want to go? He probably said, no, I don't want to play for Turley Poulis, and I'll need to think about it. Maybe Arsenal should say, sorry, we've got a bid. You're being sold.
It happens at Chelsea. That woman, Granite Sky or whatever, she doesn't play about. You know, once they decide you're out, you're out.
I don't know how easy it is. I'm just thinking out loud. But
players can't.
Be a bit harder.
Players can't say no. So
yes, of course.
You know, and that.
But they know where they stood, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you look at the Giroud situation. I mean, they said Wenger said to him, "We're open for offers." He's like, "Yeah, okay then." Then he comes back and says, "Actually, Arsenal, I want to stay." All right then, mate. Yeah, Lucas.
You're off.
Mate, you're off. In fact, I won't even tell you, Lucas. You can write about it on the bloody website.
We'll just take your number away from you.
It's another one. It's another one I don't buy. No. I don't believe that Arsene Wenger ever went to sell Olivier Giroud. I think the club might have been willing to accept offers. I was told that Wenger was at loggerheads with the board on that one because he didn't want to sell him. The club was saying, well, of all the people we can sell, this one is £25 million. You know, this one we can get a lot of money for. And he's 30. Whereas Wenger said, actually, no, I want to keep him. So again, what Ornstein and what's come out this week, again, doesn't necessarily all ring true. I'm not sure all the facts have come out.
Just back on the Ozil thing, I just think it's still, your Patrick Vieira example, I just think it is different now. I think, you know, from a Mesut Ozil point of view that, you know, if we played the bluff a little bit, so to speak, but then Fenerbahce are saying that, well, if we're paying Arsenal 30 million for you, we can't pay you 300 grand, where we can only pay you 150 grand. And then Ozil just turns around and says no. Because I would say there'll be a lot of third parties from clubs saying, you know what, you've got a year left, sit it out, and then if we don't have to pay a transfer fee for you, we can then afford to pay you your 250 with a big signing on fee.
I can see clubs like Juventus and Bayern Munich in his ear saying, look, sit it out.
Yeah, I mean, this was Man City, but say if Man City weren't in for Alexis Sanchez, and say only Bayern Munich were, so when I mean that, I mean a team that can't just spend completely stupid amounts of money, they probably would have advised that and said, actually, just sit tight for a season, have a good season, and we'll get you on a free, and we'll pay you then what you want, because we can't afford to pay 60 million. So you can see that happening a little bit as well.
Yeah.
I've still got open bets I placed last summer that Mesut Ozil's next club is Borussia Dortmund or PSG. I was so convinced we were going to, because I was so convinced he wanted to leave last summer. The one just gone, the one before. So we'll see.
We'll see. Let's get back to football.
I was thinking more about last summer when I got the impression he didn't want to stay.
You're listening to the Gooner Ramble podcast with host Giles, Akhil and Dave. Let's get back to football. Let's talk about Bournemouth FC. We've got Bournemouth. Akhil, after what's come out from the Liverpool debacle, and then obviously the Sanchez and Ozil social media comments. Do you think Wenger said he loves the players and he believes in the players?
Yeah. Well, yes.
They're champing at the bit to prove, to get the supporters and that back on side. Do you think after all that's gone on, he can get the players to sing from the same hymn sheet as we come back against Bournemouth?
Great question. I think he said the right things. I think he's probably trying to create a bit of a siege mentality kind of thing in terms of, look, lads, the media don't like us at the moment. They're writing us off. Ex-professionals are writing us off. Those club legends are writing us off. Potentially fans need to be convinced. Let's go out and show them. Let's be united. That's going to be, I reckon, his kind of point of view. So absolutely, he said the right things. He's given his players a bit of a boost in terms of, he's putting his neck out there for them again. What then it will be interesting for me is if that was me and I was thinking, all right, you know what, we've struggled, we've lost 2 as he said before, 2's bad, 3's a crisis, I really can't lose this again. I would look at his team selection and think, okay, you know what, players like Dave mentioned him, Per Mertesacker, he's my captain, he's my leader, I can depend on him. He showed me that in the cup final. I need to play him. I need players that are really going to play there.
You can lean upon,
Jack Wilshere's another, whether he's fit. I mean, Jack Wilshere says he's fit. Jack Wilshere's, he's got that Arsenal in him. He's got that fight in him. Olivier Giroud showed me he wants to stay here. Giroud's not going to accept being on the bench. He didn't last season. He's not going to, so it's all good and well saying, my player's this, my player's that, but then if he picks, I don't know, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean? He needs to then pick the sort of players that are going to fight for him. It's no point picking an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain because he's not going to fight for you, as we saw last Sunday or Sunday before.
What do you reckon, Dave? Do you agree with what Akhil said? You got to pick the players that are ready to die for the shirt?
Yeah, I just lost connection for a bit. I'm back. But yeah, I mean, I've wrote a blog, obviously, maybe you saw it today about Jack Wilshere.
Yeah.
And
of course we saw it. You DM'd us to tell you to retweet it. Tell us to retweet it. Of course we saw it.
That doesn't mean you read it.
Well, actually, you're spot on there.
The point is, we've actually, if you exclude Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, we've actually only got 5 fit central midfield players now that Ox has gone, if we take he could have played there. So Jack Wilshere is going to play football for Arsenal this season, and certainly until January. And I, for one, relish the prospect. And I think starting from Cologne next week and followed with Doncaster the week after, this is when we're going to start to see some of these players who haven't perhaps been given a chance be given a chance. And some of those players are players who will definitely want to prove themselves, for a future Arsenal career. Jack's one of them. Callum Chambers is another. Reece Nelson, Maitland-Niles. There are many players, on the borderline of the squad who now are going to get an opportunity with this slightly lesser European competition. So let's see if they do want to fight for the shirt. I sincerely hope they do. And it goes back to that blend, doesn't it, of experience, either experience in youth or experienced youth and wanting to pull on the shirt of Arsenal.
Who's in your lineup, Dave, for Saturday?
I guess Petr Cech. I don't think despite the fact I think he should, let's just assume he's not going to change the formation. I would go with Bellerin and Kolasinac, and I'm sure we're looking forward to seeing Kolasinac play left wing back.
For once.
I would go with Koscielny, Holding, and Nacho Monreal on the left, Koscielny in the middle and Holding on the right. I think he'll stick with Ramsey and Xhaka. I probably wouldn't myself, but I think he will. And then I think I'd like to see, I really want to see how it works. I've seen a bit of chemistry, which perhaps people thought weren't going to be there. I'd like to see Giroud and Lacazette on the pitch together from the start. And I think with Alexis coming back from a long trip, perhaps a minor niggle, maybe we can see him introduced off the bench. He won't like it. I don't care. So I would like to see Lacazette and Ozil playing off Giroud. I think that would be interesting. And Bournemouth is a club that Giroud likes playing against, of course.
Yeah, indeed.
That's what I'd like to see.
Axe?
Yeah, I mean, as I said there, I mean, very similar, but I mean, I would play someone like Mertesacker for that trust, someone I trust. As a manager, I just feel Wenger needs a result here. Wenger needs a few results here, and I just think Saturday's about fight, just showing, and then the following week at Chelsea, it's a little bit more about, maybe suited to the opponent. It's a little bit more of a tactical affair there potentially. So here it's just about fight, and I wouldn't even be upset to see us go back to what's worked. I mean, 3 at the back, of course. From last Easter, we won the FA Cup with it. We went to places like Southampton and Stoke and won, but then was that because Southampton and Stoke were on the beach? I don't know, but actually last season we went 19 games unbeaten after losing to Liverpool at home with a 4 at the back with kind of partnerships in there. Ozil and Sanchez were creating that partnership. I know Sanchez played up front then, but Walcott and Bellerin were creating partnerships on that right. I don't know. I don't know if three at the back's always going to be the future. I mean, Wenger said at the start of the summer that we've got the ability to do both, but I think what he meant by that was we can go from a 3 at the back to a 2 centre backs in a game.
Do you think he's at the point where he might switch back to a back 4? I mean, there are some people that said that he's going to stay with a 3, and then when we're chasing the game, he switches to a 4. But do you think there's a chance that he might revert? I mean, you're suggesting
he did that against Leicester, didn't he?
Well, he did that against Stoke as well, and against
but, I mean, to
Liverpool
start
too.
with a 4.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule that out. I don't see why we would rule that out at home to a team that potentially is going to play five across the back. I just, I don't know. It seems like when we do get one formation, we stick to it no matter what. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we're calling it based on what we think about Wenger, aren't we? We just don't think he does tend to stick with something until it's broken, then change. We'd love him to be more flexible, game to game and team opposition to opposition, but it's not his way.
Do you think, there's growing rumours, I don't know if you guys believe in it, there's growing rumours that if we lose next weekend at Chelsea, that's it, he packs in, Wenger packs it up. Do you see that happening, Axe? There's obviously,
I've
there's
not
a lot
heard
of
that
apathy.
rumour.
All right, well, I'm telling you now, there's been a rumour that
Have you just started that, have you?
I would never be one to start a Wenger out rumour. Come on now.
No. Basically, no.
I've not heard that.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, wait. We will probably lose to Chelsea. That's going to happen. But no. It's 5 games in. It definitely won't. We'll beat Bournemouth. We'll probably lose to Chelsea, and then we'll probably go on a little bit of a run. Because that's what Arsenal do. But no, I can't see that. I just think. I think one of the reasons why I can't see that is, Stan Kroenke, who would make that choice, isn't here. He doesn't see that ground every week. He doesn't feel the tension and he doesn't hear the groans. So it's a lot easier as an absent owner just to kind of keep at it and keep going kind of thing and just leave it as it is. If he's here every week, it's completely different. So, yeah, I can't see it. I mean, the first time he'll be back here watching a game is probably going to be end of October after the AGM. Yeah, the AGM's a Thursday. He'll probably be here for the weekend.
Sorry, Giles. Was the rumour that you think the club would ask Wenger to go, or the rumour is Wenger himself would choose?
Wenger himself. That's the rumour I've heard. That Wenger himself.
Well, in which case, Kroenke wouldn't have anything to do. Kroenke wouldn't have anything to do with it.
Well, true, but I can't see that.
I can't see it myself, to be honest.
No, I can't.
It's just a bit of a stupid rumour, then, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I'm glad we wasted 3 minutes on that.
Wilshere, do you think Wilshere comes back this week? I'd like to see him actually in the squad. I think if we're going to start him or play him at some point against Cologne, then, if he's fit, then I think he should be in the squad for this weekend. I don't know about you guys.
So I'm just thinking,
I'd like to see that.
Dave said waste 3 minutes, but I mean, we wasted 5 minutes on his bloody story from Cornwall the other week. So, I mean, you know what I mean? It's
swings around.
It must have been fascinating because you're still talking.
Well, it was. I thought it really was. Can you tell us again, Uncle Dave? Sorry, Jack Wilshere.
Predictions. Akhil, what's your prediction? Saturday.
1-0 Bournemouth. No, I'm kidding. I actually think it'll be a tight affair. I think it'll be probably 1-0 Arsenal, maybe 2. We score a late goal, but I think for a majority of the game it'll be 0-0 or 1-0.
Sure. Dave.
3-1.
Who?
3-1 to Arsenal. Who?
Right.
It's not that bad yet, is it? Jeez. I know I said 1-0 Bournemouth. I'm just joking.
I think we win it 2-1, but it'll be a tense affair. I think key battleground will probably be in midfield again. Because they'll probably be in and amongst us. But yeah, I think we should turn out winners. And it's just getting back on the horse and trying to get off on another run. Everyone's eyes on Stamford Bridge next week. That's the real key, isn't it?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm very excited about Cologne at home.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited because I want to see the type of team he's going to select, and if he does what I think he's going to do, I'm excited to see at least 3 or 4 players that, including Jack and some of the younger players, get 90 minutes against what is not a poor side. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
That sounds like a happy distraction, Dave.
That sounds like a what?
A happy distraction that you're looking forward to.
Well, possibly, but let's take one game at a time.
But I mean, what Dave says is completely true, because I mean, you think of that, if Callum Chambers plays both games, Doncaster and Cologne, plays well, and then you've got Mustafi who potentially, wants to go in January. Well, then he can sit on the bench till January if Callum Chambers is hungry and wants to play. It's a big. There's a real opportunity right now for Arsenal players, because I don't think anyone's really guaranteed a spot. Yeah, yeah, you would say Sanchez is, but if Sanchez's attitude isn't there, he's going anyway in the summer, then actually...
Or January,
then you think, actually, no, it's not guaranteed. Same with Mesut Ozil. So actually, I mean, Laurent Koscielny's probably, I would argue, and Granit Xhaka, because no one else can play there. Maybe.
And Bellerin right
Bellerin
now.
Of course, now Bellerin. But apart from that, the rest of them aren't really guaranteed, are they? So, I mean...
And check.
I'm looking forward to seeing Kolasinac. I want to see Kolasinac on Saturday, get 90 minutes. And I'd like to see in the Europa League, I think I'd like to see Holding and Chambers play together like they have for England. Not last summer, the one before they played together in the Toulon tournament. And they look very, very good understanding that. So, there's a lot of things to look forward to.
Cool. All right, well, let's see. On that happy note, on that dreary note, or happy note, whichever, I would like to thank Akhil for coming on. Akhil.
No problem.
And you can catch Akhil at 10 Akhil on Twitter. We've also like to thank Dave for coming on.
Thank you, chaps. Much enjoyed. I'll see you both on Saturday.
Indeed, we will.
You will.
Catch him at Gooner Dave 66.
It's a nice early one as well. Man City, Liverpool first, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
indeed.
Nice. I'll see you down the boozer.
You can also still...
That'd be unlike you to get in the pub that early.
Never, mate. I'm never in the pub early.
If you want to catch us on all the platforms, YouTube, iTunes, all the Android apps. Catch the Lee Dixon interview with the Gooner girls.
That's
We've also
great.
got the really good interview. We've also got one with Stevie Nicol. Catch that if you can. We shall be seeing you again towards the end of the weekend, possibly Monday, Tuesday, to recap the Bournemouth game and look ahead to the Europa League game. That's your lot. I've been your host, Giles. Thanks for listening. Up your Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.